So I prepared the whole list of things that changed when I switched to raw diet. And to preface my monologue, I would like to tell the initial conditions, what I switched from. Basically, a lot of people switch from some either junk vegan or just whole foods vegan diet. Some people switch because of some health concerns. They rapidly switch from normal American, the average family's diet of highly processed foods with highly processed organic matter that they consume on a daily basis. So they try raw, for example, because they're desperate to improve their health, because they have like some conflicting meds that they cannot take together, so they go through some triage or whatever, right? So pharma is its own religion. So my case was different because I had been following the diet that World Health Organization, God forbid, would consider the ideal diet, with the exception of dairy. Dairy I have very bad relationships with since I was little, and my parents, my stepfather is a doctor, they forced me at the age of 8, before I hit puberty, they forced me to start consuming dairy in the most disgraceful way possible, and from 8 to about 2021, I was eating something like flavored yogurts, chocolate milks, and all this crap just to keep up with my calcium, because there was a belief that humans without interspecies milk secretion consumption would turn into a squiggly noodle, which is of course not true, and it took me to do some reading to accept some evidence that completely unbased milk-centered way of living. And to this day I can recognize people who worship milk. I can see people who eat dairy products in excess. They have specific type of face, they have specific type of handling themselves. They're usually pretty lethargic, they have low vitality usually, and you can really distinguish them. And especially I cringe when I hear this, cheese, I'm obsessed with cheese, oh my gosh, cheese is so much better than anything in the world. And you see orgasmic wave going through the person. So that's something, guys, that I will never be tolerant to dairy, sorry, mentally. I actually don't have lactose intolerance in the way that it's accepted. But yeah, at the age of 2021, whenever I stopped having any colds when I quit dairy or anything from that realm. So dairy is a real evil, and if you suffer from allergies, if you suffer from recurring, it's not anything mucousy, anything with tonsils, bronchitis, quit dairy, forget about it. It's not food, it's just a glue, it's mucousy shit. Don't do it. So why I'm saying all that is because I was eating this ideal Mediterranean diet, with exception of dairy. So in my case, I just switched from cooked whole food diet, organic, everything is like super mega good. I switched to uncooked whole foods diet. That's all. That's pretty much it. But that made a major difference. And now in the first part of this video, we'll talk about what physiological changes it made. Then in the second part of the video, I will talk about what, over these almost 2 years, I changed in terms of approaching raw diet. And then in the third part of the video, I will tell what did not change for me after I switched to raw diet and hasn't been changing over these 2 years. Because everybody thinks that, oh, you switch to raw and you suddenly rejuvenate to your infant qualities. You have some, I don't know, you just become a new person altogether, just miraculous, vibrant being. It's true, but some things, they're still not optimal in our lifestyle and they're beyond our control in some circumstances. So let's start. So first thing that changed physiologically that I noticed out in first month of raw diet is that I never had migraines anymore. So in 1 month on raw diet, and ever since, I haven't had migraine, which is a huge miracle because in my family, all females have migraine. So it's a hereditary story. Plus, it was complicated in my case because doctors, jumped on my mom, squeezed me out of her because of all those crazy medicated birth practices and whatnot, when woman is like threatened with some activity in her womb and whatnot. So I was squeezed and pulled out of my mom. So I had neck trauma. I had some Basically, I was born almost dead, and they did a lot of emergency procedures on me and whatnot. So ever since I was a toddler, I suffered from headaches. And then they developed into full-blown migraines as I was approaching puberty. And since then, none of my family members that are females, they don't leave home without painkillers, because migraine can happen at any time. Give it 1 or 2 triggers. And I was avoiding trigger foods on my normal diet before I switched on January 1st, 2021. I was avoiding certain kinds of seafood, which are mussels. I was avoiding certain kinds of fish. I was avoiding beans, certain kinds of them. And I was avoiding overly salty foods. I quit alcohol in 2018. I never really understood drinking alcohol, but that was like under social pressure, mostly from my parents. And I don't like anything about alcohol. If you want, I will make a separate video about it, why I quit, how I quit, and so on. If you suffer from alcoholism, suddenly watching this video. So alcohol was not a thing, but sleeping in this position, stressing out was always prevalent. I did PhD in engineering, so during my first year of PhD was the time when my migraines just went out of control. They became perpetual, and they actually brought me to the neurologist. And actually they brought me to do MRI, because there was pretty concerning set of symptoms that I was experiencing. And neurologist, he was like, I'm pretty sure that it's a migraine, but to be extra sure, let's send you to the MRI. And pretty sure it was migraine, and he said, okay, before I went raw, it was 2019. He was like, I see that you're not pharmaceutical girl, so if you want, of course, I must offer that. We can do Botox or whatever they do, some nerve debilitation injection there in some nerve that goes across the hemisphere, and it numbs. Basically, you don't feel the pain, don't feel the migraine anymore. But so he said that for some people it works for eternity, for some people it works for just a couple of months. And we all know that body destroys the botulinum toxin by immune reaction, so you have your immune system constantly activated with something that completely does not belong in your body, that your body doesn't want. So it's complete bullshit to do that. Plus, another thing is that I always say that if you have migraines, you're the luckiest person, because some people, they don't have acute reaction to certain inflammatory things, and they keep eating them, and then one day they have some breakdown situation because they were not able to monitor symptoms immediately after consumption. So if you have migraine, this means that you're still eating something inflammatory. And what I noticed after switching to raw diet, and I still have that thing, because I know the smell of foods that cause migraine. I know if I eat something, if I like sin on raw and eats, for example, boiled beans, I don't get migraine, but I get aura. And it doesn't develop in full-blown migraine, but I get the feeling. I cannot eat rice. I realize that rice is a super villain in this case. Cooked foods, you feel like you ate bricks. You feel so inflamed from those. I don't know, it's crazy. Unless you try, you won't realize what I'm saying, but try. At least for a month. You see, it's only 1 month is enough if you are on adequate diet as is right now. So then, on the same train of thought, PhD, super pressure, lack of sleep, super stress, constant tasks. So your tasks are hopping all over your head all the time. You cannot get your thoughts together. You're constantly tired. So first year of my PhD, I developed not just exacerbated migraines, but also panic attacks, insomnias, and weight loss. And also onset of depression. But that will be the second point. So I was suffering from all those, and panic attacks came to me to stay, up until again I switched to raw diet. Panic attacks subsided alongside with the migraines. My sleep improved alongside with the migraines. Part of it can be psychological, because you take a big portion of your life under your control. But another thing is raw diet really modifies your biochemistry. And if we move now to the depression, and I found myself particularly in bad mental shape when I started noticing with all the fear mongering of the past 3 years ago, 2, 3 years ago, when I started seeing how society that I aspire to be a part of, the society of the renowned, powerful Western world, started falling prey of the fear-mongering propaganda when they started ignorantly following some agenda, when they forgot about their lives, when they forgot about their liberties, when they forgot about their strength, personal growth, and so on and so forth. They just collapsed into the mass of completely scared and debilitated people. And for me, it was a personal crisis, because everything that I was aspiring to be, everything that I was aspiring to be associated with, was no longer there. And I didn't know why I was going for this PhD. I just, again, I lost purpose. So anytime I didn't need to go to the school to work, I worked as a research assistant, I would just lay in bed. I would just lay in bed with headphones. I didn't feel like doing anything. So it took me a lot of willpower to just get up and do something. Take care of my house, take care of myself. So it was a huge work. And again, switching to raw diet immensely helped with that, because depression is part biochemistry, part psychology. And sometimes your biochemistry becomes that inertly moving train that you cannot stop with just acknowledging that, convincing yourself with something. So you need to break free from certain biochemistry that destroys how you perceive the world adequately, that prevents you from being, again, from having a positive outlook on life. Raw diet did this to me magically. It was just insane. So depression was over, panic attacks were over, my sleep improved, my weight stabilized. And this was insane. And then the same train of thought, cardiological problems also subsided. Since childhood, I was not only neurologist patient, I was also cardiologist patient. And even to the extent that I had exemption from doing cardio at the physical education classes. So I would not run, for example. And I was sticking, when I became young adult, I started doing the same routine, fitness routine, that at this point, I've been doing it for, I think, 7 years. That routine is very cardio heavy. And up until, again, it will sound like some, I don't know, super, like a scene on TV advertisement, how I praise all this, but that's what really happened. I was not able to go through the cardio program without opening the window, like huffing and puffing, just like laying on bed in this super misery, waiting for my breath to recover to be able to continue my exercises. I was not able to do that. I don't know why. And after I switched to raw, now I can fly through the cardio program. And this is amazing. Plus, I also have a dog now. So I can run with him. We walk 7 times a day. So I spend a lot of times actively moving outdoors, and this is incredible. So the level of activity that I can afford and I can perform is immense now. Another cool thing is that with migraines being not an issue anymore, I started being able to incorporate certain inverted poses. So I'm learning to do handstands. Actually, my elbows are now with some rug burn because my mat that I used for that has texture, and this texture cannot bear my whole, it's very painful basically when you keep your whole body almost entirely on your elbows. That's really painful. So if you see those, it's from me training to do a forearm stand now. So yeah, cardio fitness performance improved. Then another funny thing that happened, it was, so I'm 1994, right? So I'm 28 now. In 2021, I was 26 in January because my birthday is in summer. I was 26. Imagine, 26 years old girl had knee joint problems. So alongside with all those chronic bouquet, I also had knee pain, the onset of knee pain, and it was not the knee pain that was after like days standing in the lab, no, it was after sleeping. So I would wake up in the morning feeling my knees hurt. That was also an insane thing to develop by the age of 26. I think everybody will agree with me, and so that also subsided pretty quickly for that. Also, like stretching, for example, that after like a workout, muscle pain, muscle ache, muscle soreness and ligament soreness after stretching, they also became much better. So that also improved. Then another thing that I had was acne. And I remember I had a friend back in Russia, and once she was dating a photographer. When girls date photographers, they become photographers and photo models. So she grabbed the professional camera from her boyfriend and went to some historic place in Moscow, and she was taking portrait pictures of me. And the next day she called me very upset. She's like, "Here, I will send you the pictures," but she said, "Please take a moment of appreciation," because she said, "Till 2 a.m. I was photoshopping your zits. Please do something with them. It's disgraceful, it's terrible." And another instance where she was very pissed at me was that once she asked me, "If you had one wish, what would you wish?" And I was like, "Oh, that everybody's happy." And she's like, "You're a pacifist. If I were you, I would ask to never have acne again." And there was some grain of truth in that, because I still want everybody to be happy. I don't want that, but acne problem, I think everybody who suffers from that would not jump and deceive themselves that they're very happy with that problem. They would probably want to have some solution that will provide them effective, safe, durable, or permanent result that would just rid them of this problem. So I had deep acne, especially I was prone to them when I would eat something severely inflammatory, such as some chocolates and some like desserts, a bunch of crops, grains. I became very against grain consumption after I switched to raw and noticed all that. And also before periods. So I had hormonal pattern for breakouts and also some inflammatory product consumption related. And those things, they disappeared as well. So acne is under control. And here I could not tell that's like it's purely raw diet. I also changed my facial care routine, because now my facial care is literally absence of facial care. I just wash my face with water and wipe it with towel. That's it. Unless I wear some fun makeup once in a century. Then okay, I will apply some soap. I never wear foundation or anything like that, and I never did. But now I also don't wash my face with anything that's harsh, that strips my skin off of natural oils and protective layers. Again, it's only water that I use for my face. So yeah, before it was either acne or scars of acne. So half of the month, before periods, and during periods I would have acne, and then another half of the month I would wear the scars that were healing. So yeah, my skin never was good. Now I have pretty bright lights, so probably it would be honest if I did daylight filming. You see this one? These are my stress things. I just quit my job, and I'm really happy about it. But yeah, stress, I just sit and do this to my skin. That causes those local inflammations. And then another thing was cravings. Of course, cravings became no longer there, but I'm talking about harmful cravings. Now I have different cravings. Now I want salad. I'm not lying. I want my vegan sushi. I want my salad. They're amazing, they're irreplaceable, and they're super good and tasty. I used to crave chocolate, I used to crave sweets, I used to crave pasta. I was eating that all the time, and every time I would eat it, I would Google some reasons why chocolate can be good for you, and I would get calmer about it. Then, with all these things, I mentioned the aspect of psychological improvement. But what came with it is inevitably sense of purpose. So I just started seeing life in less distorted way, because when we live against the natural laws, we start seeing the world through the lens, through the filter that distorts our perception. And the more you come closer to how nature intended this world to be for us, the more you adjust your biology, the more you adjust your eventually mind. We'll come to that as well. But it starts with biology. The more you adjust your biology, the more you adjust the way you exercise yourself, the way you eat, the closer you get to the true colors of nature. And nature doesn't have suffering in it. It's just not the property of living nature around us. So you come to this very pure life in which you just can enjoy it. You can be happy. You can greet each day. You can feel connection with people. You can feel very lively and loving without any struggle. You don't have as many energy drains anymore. So that was another thing, sense of purpose. Now, I'm concluding this section, and now we will switch to the second part of my video. What I changed in my approaches to raw diet. So, if you know, the starter pack of raw vegan person is what? Blender, dehydrator, and sometimes distiller. I started using distiller about a year ago. I cannot be happier. I love the idea that no entity, no like corrupt creature, actually notice how they're all anonymous to us. They all cover up with some names but we don't know which person stands behind all this crap. So I don't like the idea of having some entity to decide what's in my water. Whenever I see the messages that, lithium waste would be cool to actually use as water improver, because that will make people less anxious and more tranquil. And that's on top of fluoride already. And I love this meme or whatever it is, some like internet thing that, sorry, I don't argue with people who drink fluorinated water. And this cannot be closer to the truth. Because we all know that fluoride in water makes you, is likely to make you very distant from what you're really capable of in terms of willpower and creating your own reality and perceiving the world unaltered. So yeah, distiller appeared in my household. I love it so much. Then actually after distiller, the water from not distiller textures like oil. And so read about distillation. It's a very controversial thing, but don't worry about it. If you eat well, you will get minerals from food. It's not a big deal. Then dehydrator thing though. Dehydrator I used a lot in the beginning. When I just started doing raw, I was so inspired. I was testing different recipes. I was having fun in the kitchen basically. But then I realized that wet foods taste so much better. And in fact, some nutrients, they do dissipate with some water-soluble vitamins, for example. They get removed with dehydration. For example, B vitamins, I think first 3 or B1 to B6, they actually get removed the longer you dehydrate your food, even at those proper temperatures that define raw foods. So I stopped dehydrating as much. And I use dehydrator occasionally. For example, I bought too much kale and I was busy, or I did not feel like eating as much during the week. So I would just grab all this kale, I would grab whatever leftover greens I have, we'll make some sauce, toss it on the kale and make kale chips. That's an easy way to consume a lot of kale. Or sometimes you want to surprise someone, you want to impress some people who are not into raw diet, who want some adaptive foods that are from more familiar palate. So basically the foods that are more similar to what people ordinarily live, if you want to serve something like that for those people, that's another cool thing. So I don't really rely on dehydrators. Sometimes maybe I'll make some granola, but I don't use it as much anymore. I like wet foods much better. And one of my struggles was to include flax seeds. And I used to make crackers. I would put hemp, I would put flax seeds. But then I started making this very beautiful porridge in the morning. Porridge, it's not boiled, so just mash the banana, add some hemp, add water, flax seeds, cacao powder, frozen raspberries, some Brazil nuts, and just mix it all up. Let flax seeds absorb water, they become very plump and easy to chew on. So you just eat that and it's really cool. You don't need to chug a ton of water after you ate those crackers, after you ate all those dehydrated foods that concentrate salt, that concentrate flavors, become very potent, sometimes like too potent to my taste. So dehydrated kind of, its importance really dissipated in my household. So I would probably advise that you buy some cheaper kind if you're a beginner, if you're restricted in budget. But I would really encourage you to stick with wet foods to the max. Just try to use your imagination to find the recipes, or again, watch my channel. I will be uploading more videos about that soon. To come up with some recipes that are wet, moist. Then another thing that I changed in my approach is I stopped eating nut butters. There is a conflicting thing about oxidized fats and oils. I found that there are some articles that talk about the toxic effects of oxidized oils. And there are a lot of articles that bash that study. And at the same time, nature gives us clues to the relevance of not oxidizing the oils. For example, human milk, cow milk. I don't know if some super doctor talked about it on YouTube already. I learned it from some source, apparently. So human milk or cow milk, they're heavy in fats. And where does this milk go? It goes straight to the throat, from tit to the throat. And it never hits the air. And what people do when they start like milking animals, they actually expose it to the air. And first thing that food in general must hit is your digestive juices, your saliva. So with nut butters, it's a conflicting thing because nut butters are in essence something that was whipped. It's very fatty mass that is likely very oxidized. And it's not just that, for example, we don't chop celery and eat it later. Oxidation happens quick and it rids the plants of their nutrients. Same happens with nuts, same happens with seeds. Also, we don't eat flax seeds that had been grounded, whatever, and set on the shelf for a while. It's recommended that you, even if you don't want to chew them, you grind them and eat them right away. We don't want that oxidation to happen. So nut butters, they just started feeling heavy at first, so I was kind of questioning that, whether I should eat them, but then I learned about oxidation factor, and I decided to just stop eating them, because again, they were giving me this heavy feeling. Sometimes nut butters are very convenient. They're super cool to use because they're silky. You can make a bunch of sauces with them. You can mix them with dates and make all those delectable brownies and so on and so forth. But afterwards, it's heavy. And on raw diet, you get addicted to this lightness feeling. So they kind of don't match. Handful of nuts versus equivalent mass of nuts in butter form, two different foods. Experiment. Buy almonds, buy hazelnuts, and buy, for example, Aurora brand sells raw butters. Try, compare, just out of curiosity, whether you see the difference. Same initial product, two different forms. Just tell me in the comments if you see the difference between nut butters and just raw nuts in their whole form that you chew in your mouth, so they break them down in your mouth. So nut butters also kind of disappeared from my diet. Then I introduced more seaweed. So I was always on some supplements my entire life, pretty much. I know that I've never lived in the climate that's appropriate for human. So 9 months out of the year, it's like almost polar night. So people don't get enough vitamin D. And nowadays also with all the hygiene that we have, which is handy for many people, which is beneficial for longevity, for example, infant longevity and so on and so forth. In infant survival, we live in very hygienic world. And even animal sources of B12, for example, they are not enriched with B12 because they eat natural dirt with all those bacteria, and that assimilate this vitamin B12 in their muscles, and then people can eat them and get the vitamin B12. So D3 and B12 are some of the vitamins that I was always consuming, but I was also in pursuit of more natural sources of either. So seaweed is one of the categories of food that provides both vitamin D, vitamin B12. If we talk about microalgae, chlorella contains vitamin D, but now I currently supplement also. Again, I live in New York. I live near the North Pole almost. I supplement with some plant-derived, basically gels with 2,000 international units of D. And I also eat chlorella. And here is important thing about B12 is that chlorella contains true B12. Spirulina, despite the fact that you will find on many labels, you will see that B12 content there is like through the roof. Spirulina contains pseudo B12 that sits on the receptors of B12, of true B12, so even if you consume some supplement or something that contains true B12, will not adhere and get used by the body. B12 is actually nice, it can be recycled by the body, so the deficiency develops over a long period of time because B12 is a reaction mediator. I don't remember the exact sequence of reaction, but basically, yeah, it's just a molecule that carries some functional group over from one molecule to another. So B12 deficiency can manifest throughout the years. And I personally, I don't rely, since I still use some chemistry at home. It can be dishwashing solution, even the most natural one, stress, electromagnetic radiation, whatever. It's still not balanced lifestyle. So I cannot fully rely on, for example, in the synthesis of B12 with my intestinal flora. So I eat NORI. NORI also contains real B12. And I also eat seaweed salad from something like Sea Tangle company. They're a very cool salad that's raw, and you can supplement not just with B12 from that salad, potentially B12. Probably there are not many species that carry sufficient amounts of B12, but iodine is also another important mineral that many people end up deficient in on vegan diets. Since I'm Russian, I often I get like recommendations for some bloggers that talk about vegan lifestyle, but mostly those people are from like spiritual scene, and those people often have the same pattern. And I think Dr. Berg talked about it, that iodine deficiency manifests in recession of the eyebrows. And what I notice is that people who follow, for example, strictly fruitarian diet, which is, I will make a video about strictly fruitarian in the 21st century, you can see like videos from like 4 or 5 years ago, and now you can see that person just lost half of their eyebrows. And they just dismiss the fact that maybe they need some iodized salt, maybe they need to, again, introduce seaweed in their diet. There is a thing with seaweed is that some people say that we don't have, like European people do not have ferments to break down the seaweed. But what I found the studies that you quickly assimilate to digesting seaweed. So it's some acquired property that you can develop pretty quickly if you consume seaweed on a regular basis. So for B12, it's NORI, and it's microalgae chlorella. For iodine, any seaweed will do. Of course, sometimes I eat sea moss, but I'm not really keen on the flavor, and plus it's some hype item, so it's pretty difficult to find the good sea moss. So I just buy assorted seaweeds, and it's amazing. Then I introduced more hemp and flax seeds, and this is related to seaweeds as well, because seaweeds also bear some omega-3 and essential fatty acids, and so do hemp and flax seeds. Flax seeds are absolutely ideal food for that. So I started introducing those. I became more mindful about it. And another thing about hemp, if you look at the amino acid profile, it's insanely good. If you look at their mineral content, it's insanely good. So hemp is a superfood, must be eaten at all times. along with flax seeds. Again, use my recipe from earlier in this video. Then, another thing about, since we touched up on the amino acid case, I was not fully raw until several months ago, and I only recently dropped all cooked legumes. Before, I would I would pretty frequently eat boiled lentils. So this was one of the compromises in my raw diet. I noticed that on normal diet, if I eat legumes, I would get migraine. If I combine legumes with salad, with high fiber diet, I don't get the migraine. So I was eating boiled lentils. And I recently switched to completely consuming lentils in sprouted form. So just 100 grams, which is little, I don't know if you saw Pyrex, they have these little jars with, not jars, bowls with lid. Just that little thing contains about from 15 to 40% of daily needs of essential amino acids. It ranges. So combining sprouts, hemp, like say pumpkin seeds, nuts, you can cover all your essential amino acids for the day. It's a very easy way to do that. And sprouts also, they don't give the migraine feeling at all. So they become completely different class of food. They smell grassy. They don't have this chalky, beany aroma that reminds me of migraine so much. They're very fresh and watery, very easy to eat them, and at the same time, you unlock vitamins. You you boost the content of enzymes in sprouts, in sprouted lentils. I think by third, fourth day of sprouting, the amount of enzymes maximizes. So it's very easy food to digest, to assimilate. Plus, for example, if you rely on either supermarket food or if you rely on seasonal food, sometime in spring when people don't get enough vitamins, sprouts is the way to go. They supply the vitamins. You really generate them by sprouting. So I want to broaden my scope of sprouting to other functional kinds, such as like different seeds, including broccoli seeds, and also I want to try chickpea sprouts, but they require a lot of babysitting. Compared to lentils, I think lentils are the easiest one to sprout. They're just the easiest. They don't require any equipment. I'll be making a separate video on how to produce the lentil sprouts so easily without anything you need to buy on Amazon. You don't need to invest in anything. You just do it very easy and nice. So then I also stopped mixing foods. I started being mindful about food mixing patterns. And going crazy, that's how I wrote it, and going crazy with recipes on a daily basis, especially when it comes to mixing super sweet and super fatty. That's true. Super sweet plus super fatty is a hit on your pancreas. So it's once in a while, it's fine, it's good, but make sure if I'm qualified now to give the advice, to combine this mixture with some fiber as well. It helps to mediate, make the digestion process smoother without all those crazy swings and hits on your organs that need to produce digestive juices to digest heterogeneous types of foods. So mixing foods, I make salad. It would be a complete liar to say that I don't mix foods at all. But I'm just sticking to simple things. Just chop vegetables and just throw them in the bowl, make simple something, but nothing like take this part, 7 parts of this, grind it, blend it, all of that. No. Too lazy, really? Okay, again, once in a while, guests come over, cheesecake. Let's do it, but not for daily basis. Then, distilled water I already mentioned. Then, I reduced the amount of sweets. It's an unbelievable thing, because when I was before a vegan, I was completely obsessed with sweets. It also was something from my family, and for example, all my relatives, they struggle to lose weight specifically because they are addicted to sweets. Sweets in Russia especially, they have this tradition of consuming them with tea. And we have tea parties when you meet your girlfriends for like on the weekend somewhere. You just pop a bunch of candy, some cake, and you just drink coffee or you drink a bunch of tea, and you just like enjoy all this conversation that lasts for infinite amount of time. And sweets are a huge staple that has a lot of psychological anchors and not just biochemical anchors. So breaking free from those was really hard. So I just don't want them anymore. I crave savory things. I crave seaweed. I crave salad. I crave all stuff that I cook. And it's so simple and it's so tasty and it's so cool tasting. And I can talk to you how I broke free from that, from sweet craving, in one of the videos. I'll give you super method how to hack your brain for that. Fine. Well, I will make it. And then another thing that's ongoing project is that I'm reducing the amount of food. So ever since I began my raw diet, for some reason I decided that the bigger the salad, the better. So I make this enormous salad in a bowl, and I would eat it, and I would feel pretty stretched from that. I was stretching my limits. And I started thinking, like, why do I do this to myself? And the struggle is that I'm so accustomed to making certain amount of this salad that it's difficult for me to break free from this pattern. And plus I was working, so I had this thing where I needed to super like quickly make lunch. And thinking, somehow being aware of what I was doing was pretty hard. I was just doing whatever I was accustomed to do. So now for me it's a struggle to reduce the serving size, reduce the portion of this salad. That's probably the main thing where I tend to overeat. And even so, you overeat. Imagine if you eat equivalent amount of processed or cooked food or whatever, grains or meat plus grains or meat plus starch. Is like a complete disaster. You would be off for a couple of hours. Even when I overeat a salad, 20 minutes of like rolling around your circular belly and you're good to run, you just fly. It's amazing. So now we're going to the third part. It's the smaller part. So the video is almost over. Thank you for sticking in. And please like the video if you like it. Subscribe to my channel if you really like it and would want to see more content on this along those lines. We're looking into things that didn't change. So, didn't change my weight. My weight stabilized. Basically, after that first year of PhD, when my whole system became broken, I lost weight, but then I regained it. But now it's stabilized. It fluctuated when I would eat something. More of something, then less of something. It fluctuated. Now it's stable. I weigh between 47 to 52 kilograms. And most of the time I weigh from 48 to 49 kilograms. My body composition also didn't change. I've been training all my life, so I have a certain amount of muscle. I think I'm 15% fat, and I have a lot of muscle, and my bone density I think didn't change. Then, second thing that didn't change is periods. A lot of people who go on raw diet, they report that they cleanse to such extent they no longer have this dirty blood that exits from their vagina every month. I don't know, I'm still researching how based this is because a lot of people develop deficiencies. So where is this boundary between that your blood vessels become very strong and they just don't break when your uterine lining sheds every month or your hormonal pattern changes, your cycle extends, so this doesn't happen. And between, so your blood vessels become like fragile, not less fragile on raw diet, and actual deficiencies, because iron deficiency can lead to this, to amenorrhea, to loss of periods and whatnot. I didn't research this in depth, was not subject of my study to such extent. I just know that acute stress can cause shift in hormonal patterns, including the biochemical stress, or again, some deficits. Then hair and nails. Nothing changed in terms of the hair growth, speed, hair volume. I know like that on my previous diet, which was very healthy, and on this diet, which is very healthy, hair grows with the same speed, with the same rate, and falls in response to stress. So whenever I go through some change in life, through some stressors, I notice that the hair loss becomes larger. It goes like that for a couple of weeks, and then it stabilizes. That's all. That's pretty much it. Nails are also the same. Maybe did they become more... I don't grow them long because it's not convenient. I do so much in the household that I just don't care to grow nails long. I usually like shave them on something or break them like on some knife or whatnot. So my nails, I think, are the same. Then dental status. So teeth overall probably improved because I used to eat refined sugar in the past and refined grains, and this is all breeding ground for bacteria, and on top of that, if you eat something sticky, then you have a sticky thing that bacteria starts eating and sitting there for a while. And teeth sensitivity was pretty strong before I switched to raw vegan diet. However, for example, in summer, when you go to the supermarket and you see all those plums, peaches, nectarines, again, those fruits were picked in the state of flower. They literally were, they became fruits probably on the truck that carried them over to the grocery store. So you buy inherently unripe fruits that have too much acid. So in summer, for example, I noticed that I could not resist all those fruits. I mean, I love peaches so much. You can bribe me with peaches. No. But you eat those things and teeth naturally become more sensitive. It's inevitable. So that is a factor. But if you don't eat much acid, like super acidic things, like on par with lemon, then your sensitivity actually becomes less. So probably it will be honest to say that on average it's the same, but when certain factors are followed, it's better than on previous diet, which contained grains and refined sugars. Then, time spent in the kitchen. Again, on average, it's the same. But think about the fact that when I ate this diet, I was buying some organic, some vegan TV dinners or something like that. And so apparently time of cooking of that stuff after work at just 2 minutes. You press the button and you get your TV dinner. Now anything I make, I actually make, so it takes time. But compared to cooked foods, when you chop foods and then you put them in the pan or in the pot and then you just sit and stir it for an hour. Of course, if you just chop your vegetables, put them in the bowl and eat them, that takes less time. Plus also the tradition, the rituals of eating, they changed. So it's not like you have this dish, that dish, so you don't serve as many dishes. Sometimes you just eat simple foods on the go. You just grab nuts, you grab some fruit, and that's enough. So time spent in the kitchen on average is the same on raw diet. Another fun thing that didn't improve was my winter hands. Now that cold finally landed in the state of New York, I start noticing my traditional winter hands that have been with me since I was little. My mom was always like grabbing my hands. She was like, "You look like 70-year-old woman." And since my childhood, I've been suffering from that. It's just nothing works against it. I need to wear some super proofing, some super like cold proofed gloves or mittens, but I need to clean poop after my dog. My dog eats a lot of fiber, so he poops pretty much like 4 times a day. So I need to clean that stuff. I need a lot of, what is the English word for that? I forgot. But basically it's on the tip of my tongue, I forgot. Basically you need good control over your fingers for that, not to make any mess. So I cannot wear some crazy mittens for that. And it takes a second in the cold. That's my ultimate proof, along with vitamin D and along with seasonal depression that many people suffer, is that we are designed to live in tropical climate, guys. So here I will conclude my video. I hope you like my message, my discoveries, click like, comment below your questions, and subscribe to my channel.